Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you a little bit about my early life and why I spent $90 a few weeks ago. And I think you're going to find it a very charming story, and you'll learn a little more insight about me. In order to tell you what I bought, you have to understand the backdrop of my story. You have to understand where I've come from, and you have to understand why spending my $90 was so frivolous to me. But why did I do it? When I was 17, I got married, and by the age of 19, I had 3 small children. Now, my husband, he's a couple years older than me, so he wasn't quite as young. But we married and we moved on to the home family farm. And there my life began, and I was a homemaker, a housewife, a mother. And so these are things that we were instilled as children. Now let me go back and explain to you something. So I married into a family that was Mennonite, and I married into a family that believed the traditional values that a woman was to be the keeper of the home. So she would stay home, the husband worked away, and the mom and the wife would stay home, raise children, and would take care of the household needs at the home. These are things that I was taught and raised by. And so when I married my husband, I was marrying into a same type situation. So nothing seemed different to me. And then also, when you married into that home, the husband was the head of the home. And so that means that the husband provided the finances, the husband paid all of the bills. The woman was just to take care of her house and home and her children. And that was a lot of work. So I didn't have spending money. That was something that I never had when I was first married. I didn't really know what it was like. Did you know that I never wrote a check out in my whole entire life? I never had a bank account, never had a credit card. I still never had a credit card, and I still don't write checks out, never done that. Yes, I have a bank account now because of YouTube. To some people, it would seem like my lifestyle would be one of suffering and one of misery. You have to understand this was the lifestyle that I wanted to live. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted my husband to be the head of the house, and I wanted my husband to take care of the finances. That is how I was raised. But looking back on it, I do have a story to tell you. And it was a lonely years of my life because my husband worked many hours. I was home with 3 small children, and I was very young, very young. And so I grew up with my children. And I was on the family farm, and so my relatives on my husband's side were all around me. But I'm going to tell you a little story about my sister-in-law. Now, my sister-in-law was a stay-at-home mom as well. But things were different in her household. In fact, my sister-in-law, to me, looked like she was the queen of the castle. She was able to spend whatever she wanted. In fact, she spent a little too much. She would go away almost on a daily occasion and would spend her husband's paycheck. And she would get home right in time before he did. She had it all worked down to a science. She loved country decorating, old-fashioned living. She loved the look of it, but I don't know if she quite lived it, because no was not an answer to my sister-in-law. So my sister-in-law, I would look across the field and I could see all of the things, the bags of clothing and all kinds of things she would bring home. And I was in my home, and I was in the farmhouse, and I was quite lonely. And to me, she looked like she had it all. I would see as she would quick get home before her husband did, and I knew from past experiences that she would hide all of her bags. It wasn't a life that you wanted to live because it was a life of secrecy. She got herself in financial troubles many times, but she had something that I always wanted. Now let me explain. She was the kind of person that always wanted something different. So she was always changing the dynamics of her house, changing the way her house looks, and changing her creative style. And on the farm, we had a dumpster for the family. Well, she would come on a weekly basis, and they would throw a whole bunch of stuff away. It would be trunk loads and trunk loads of stuff. She would throw it away. And late into the night, I would go out with my flashlight, and I would retrieve all of these wonderful things. Please don't pity me. It wasn't anything to be pitied at all. In fact, it was a wonderful world for me. I would go out into the dumpster, and she would have all kinds of wax for candles and all kinds of magazines, and all kinds of Victoria magazines. She would have She would have artificial flowers. She would have dried herbs that she would make wreaths with, and then she was done with it, she'd throw it away. She threw away everything. To me, it was like Christmas. Some weeks were amazing. She would just throw it all away. So it wasn't in bags or anything. So it wasn't like I had to root through anything. It was right there. I turned those items into beautiful treasures of my own. I would make candles, remelt them out of the wax that she had. I would use crayons and melt them and make candles with them. I would take her dried herbs and I would rearrange it into my own special treasure. I did this for quite a few years. It was an amazing time for me. But she had something that she knew I really liked, and she wasn't going to give it away. One item that she bought, she would let me borrow it just for a little bit, but I always had to return it, and I always wanted it so badly. She had a monthly magazine subscription to Gentle Spirit. Now, this was written back in the 80s and in the 90s. Now, why she bought it, I don't know. I assume she liked the look of it because it was very old-fashioned. But it talked a lot about the way I lived. And I would pour my heart into those magazines. She would give them to me just for a moment that I could read them, and I had to give them back. I didn't get to read all of them. Only once in a while she would share it with me. And it was just transported me into a time where I felt like I had someone to relate to. I didn't have a TV. I didn't have much of anything really in those years, and these magazines made me feel at home. Here are the magazines. For the last 33 years, I have hunted for these magazines, for you see, they were only in publication for just a few years. And by the time that I was older and maybe able to have a little more finances for myself, I could never find them. So for the last 6 months, I've been saving my money, saving it for something that I would really want someday. A lot of people have asked me if I ever buy anything frivolous. I don't. Yes, I go to the Thrifty Thursday, but what I buy is typically things I will use. It's not things that you would consider frivolous. Now, some of you would say this isn't frivolous at all. This isn't all of them. I got about 28 of them. It's not frivolous at all because actually in the magazines there's millions of ideas about saving money, and it is something for emotional stability. So 2 months ago, I was pouring through the internet once again because you can't find them anywhere. Absolutely nowhere. I found an eBay listing for them, and it wasn't cheap. Quite expensive in my eyes. It was $14 for shipping and $20 for 7 magazines. I had a little money saved up. In fact, it was $50. I thought about it and thought, Tessie, you really shouldn't spend that $50 because you could really use that money for other things. You know how it is when money's tight. But I wanted it so badly. I wanted them for so many years because I remember a time in my life I couldn't get anything, nothing. And I bought them. So let me explain a little more about them. So this is one of the original ones. Now, she didn't send me any in order. She sent me what she had. But this is what they look like. Gentle Spirit magazine, their primitive lifestyle. She since then has left her husband and doesn't live this kind of lifestyle at all. But I like to think about when she wrote these magazines because it brought such peace in my life. So when I looked on the eBay listing, I realized something. Cheryl Lindsay, she was actually the one who created these magazines, the one that was selling them. I was so excited, I couldn't believe it. So I bought $50 worth. That wasn't all of them. Now, my husband didn't even know the story about it. He had no clue. I never shared it with him. I just told him that there was something I really wanted a long time in my life, and they were $50, and I spent for it because it was my money that I had saved. And I said, kind of just, I was saying it in jest, you know, kind of like, yeah, there's another $40 more. I don't know how I was saying. I wasn't really saying it, thinking anything. But he heard me. And he said, Tessie, did you want the rest of those? Well, Yeah, I did. I said, well, I wasn't expecting to get any more of them. And well, I would love to have the rest that she had. Even though it's not all of them, it was just what she had. He said, go ahead and get the rest of them. I did. I burst into tears. You know, I'm an emotional person. I was just so excited to be able to get all of them, that she had. And so that is where my $90 went. Some of you would think this is a frivolous memory, but it brings back a memory of a time in my life where I didn't have anything, nothing. You see, when we lived on the farm, we were living in a very, very tight lifestyle. That's because my husband was not a spender. And so he saved money. And, you know, that's just how it is. In plain Mennonites, that's how it usually is. Now, you're going to see a lot of the modern Mennonite girls on the blogs and on YouTube. That's not the kind of Mennonite that I grew up in. We didn't grow up like that. We didn't have new houses and we didn't have things like that. You know, we grew up like this. And all of my relatives grew up are like this. They have plain houses. They don't have exciting and fancy and stuff. They don't have anything like that. So, and that's just my lifestyle. And it was just such an amazing thing for me because, you know, you wanted it for so long. You can't find it. I'm telling you, you cannot find it anywhere. You can't find it anywhere. And I'm pouring my heart back into these. And it brings me back to a time when I was 17 and 18 and 19. And these were a lifeline to me of being with other women that were like me, that I wasn't so alone. So many times I talk about in my channel about not being alone. And that is a big thing in my life because I did feel so alone. As far as having connection with other women in my life, I was so sheltered and so alone that I just don't want people to ever feel that way anymore. So that's why I put such a big emphasis on being alone and not being alone, because it comes from a very tender part of my heart. And so when we sold the farm, we were able to do things. And as you know, we went and we bought things, and we bought things and we lived a good, better life as far as having material things. And we had a nice house, and we had nice brand new vehicles in the driveway and four-wheelers, and we would do a lot of things. And we mostly put our money back into real estate, into the business. So we weren't really being frivolous when it came to clothing and jewelry and things like that. But when the real estate went belly up, we pretty much sold everything like that because we wanted to sell it on pennies on the dollar because we were still paying for the taxes, which I've done a whole slew of videos on that. But I'm back to where I am when we were first married. But the difference now is I'm choosing this lifestyle. It isn't a drudgery for me. I'm choosing it because I enjoy it. I enjoyed going to the dumpster. I enjoyed finding people's castaways. To me, that is a memory of mine that I will never forget. The joy I had in my heart when I would find these treasures that she threw away. You cannot believe the contentment I had because I was taking something that somebody didn't want and creating a beautiful place for myself. And so everything I do in life stems back from my childhood and my early years of being married, because those were the most educational for me, because it taught me so much about life and taught me so much about myself. And a lot of people say with my videos, they say, Tessie, you can always take nothing and turn it into something. Now maybe you'll understand that this isn't something that I just came up with because I have a YouTube channel. It actually is something that is deep in my soul from my early married life. How has YouTube changed me? Well, it's changed me in a way that, you know, I did open a bank account. Our finances are more equal now. And he is still the head of the home, so he makes the large decisions in our marriage. But it is different earning an income, and it is different in, you know, knowing where your money is going and being more proactive in your finances. You know, when we were first married, I had no clue pretty much about anything, really. So it is different. It does give you a sense of, accomplishment when you earn an income. It does. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. It makes you feel like you've worked really hard for it. But you know, I love being a homemaker and a housewife, and it was a very blessed life. I look back on it now in the day and age that we're living in, and I think I lived a very blessed life. I lived a very structured life. I lived a very sheltered life, but it was a wonderful life to live because I lived in harmony with the world around me. I lived in harmony with my husband and my children. I lived in harmony with my elderly parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. So it was a beautiful life. And you know, even though I wanted things that my sister-in-law had all those years ago, it built character in me. It built me character, so now I know what it's like to live in want and need. And I treasure things like this just a little bit more. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. And that is a promise. Don't forget, this is part of a series of my real personal life about being $300,000 in debt. I hope you didn't miss these videos this week because they're very special.